I know so many of us have been really feeling discouraged and disheartened recently, and for good reason. I mean, there's been so many different rollback things that are going on with the environment, with immigration, and with every imaginable type of body autonomy issues. So I think that it's so crucially important right now that we take the time to nurture ourselves and really fill ourselves up. So I just wanted to share some of the things that have been inspiring and uplifting me and helping me to stay grounded despite all of these really difficult things that are going on right now. So, one thing that I wanted to share is this quote from Representative John Lewis, who, if you're not familiar with him, I recommend really getting familiar with him and the work that he did during the civil rights era with nonviolent protests and really paving the way and making a tremendous difference during times of horrendous difficulty. And one of the things that he said that really spoke to my heart was to, let's see if I can get this right here, I don't want to botch it. He said, it's better to be a pilot light than a firecracker. So, I've heard a lot of things going on around about this marathon mentality, and I think that that's really key that we take the time to train ourselves basically for the long haul. And that involves making sure that we are nurtured and filled up in whatever way that looks like, and also looking around us at the community that surrounds us and seeing how we can help to lift one another up. So, one of the things that I most want to share also is that the concept of a silent minute. So, many of you might be holding this practice already, I don't know, but this is something that took place in World War II around the time that things were really looking bleak. I was talking with a good friend of mine about a month ago about this, and basically what happened was Winston Churchill's spiritual advisor recommended holding this silent minute on a large scale where people could come together and just pray for that moment. And this took place at 9 p.m. And this was a practice that really got held not just in the United Kingdom, but beyond that to the United States and other countries as well. And this really happened at a time when things soon afterward began to really turn around. So I believe in the power of collective prayer. And the word prayer I'll use lightly because it's really the most important thing is whatever it means to you. So just focusing on the positive and envisioning, imagining, really being able to see it, hear it, feel it, taste it, touch it, just so powerfully envisioned that you know it is so right now. Okay? This is what I believe truly makes a difference. And if you're skeptical, you can give it a try. It doesn't hurt anything. I think positivity only benefits and helps us feel better, so there's no terrible side effects or anything that could go wrong with it. So if we approach this with an open mind, I think it can be a tremendous practice. So coming together at 9 p.m. is a powerful time because some people are still holding that practice all these years later, and we can tap in with that global energy as well. So it's recommended that we and do as you feel, of course, and this could be meditative, this can be prayerful, visualization, tying it all together, whatever works for you. I recommend, and what I'm holding in my mind and heart, is envisioning our children, and not just our children, but all the children of the world. Just envisioning them having protection and safety and all their needs being met in a kind and loving way, and envisioning the families, our families, all the families, just having the needs met and having our rights restored. And also, what feels really important to me is not just to pray for those who naturally our heartstrings are pulled to pray for, but to also look toward those that maybe we have some difficult feelings toward. So I like to envision out here also just our legislators, envision them having an opening of their minds and their hearts and really being open and receptive to the truth, to being accountable for any harm that they might have caused other living beings, and just being inspired to do the right thing going forward from here on in, and to see and feel and imagine the same thing for those in corporations and places of power who maybe have not had the best and highest good for all beings in their minds and hearts. Just really seeing an awakening and an embodiment of that, where they're rising up to the truth and doing the right thing. So seeing that and holding that space, I think, can be quite powerful. And just for a moment, I set my alarm for 9 p.m. and I recommend you can even do it a minute before, so that you just have a little 30 seconds, whatever, to just close your eyes and take a few deep breaths and just get centered in that space, so you're ready when that timer goes off to do that mindful minute to the best and highest ability that you have. So I'm a huge believer of intention and positive mindset, and that does not mean just sweeping away any yucky, uncomfortable feelings over there at all. It's just a matter of, you've heard, you are what you eat. I believe you are what you think. So the more that we surround ourselves with positive mindset, the more we're attracting that to ourselves. So I think it's very helpful to set aside regular times to really focus on those things. And I love the Martin Luther King Jr. quote where he talks about that hatred cannot drive out hatred, only love can do that. So I think that, we're called right now. This is a very, very difficult time, and we are called to rise up in a way that we haven't really seen modeled, most of us, around us in our lives before. And we're fortunate that there are some tremendous leaders who have gone before us, like Martin Luther King Jr., Mahatma Gandhi, and I'm so inspired as well by the recent atrocities that took place at Standing Rock, and the way that these leaders really came together with without violence, just peaceful protest, standing up for truth. And I believe that that makes the greatest impact of all, truly, because it's so easy, right? If somebody's driving and they cut somebody off, we see all this anger around us constantly, and it takes an effort to step outside of that mindset and really work to cultivate something different, something more positive, which I believe is really strong. And this takes practice and it takes effort. And I don't know anybody that's really mastered that on this physical plane, but I think it's something worth aspiring to. And I think that, these examples that we have can really help to guide us during these times. There's this other quote: never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And Margaret Mead said that. So I think we must take heart and hold to that truth, and live our lives as fully and authentically as we can, and empower ourselves, because we don't know what is to come, and we can't change everything, right? We can't change the circumstances that brought us to this moment, and we can't change the circumstances that will happen tomorrow, but we can always focus on and empower ourselves with just really rising up in the best way that we can with the skills that we have in the moment. Let's see what else here. This Henry Ford quote: think you can or think you can't, either way you're right. So more in that positive mindset. And I want to go back to Representative John Lewis, because here was a time with the civil rights era, the civil rights movement going on, where there was so much hatred and hostility. And I was so moved. I've heard several interviews that he's given on the topic where he talked about how they really actively trained how to respond without hatred and how to respond without violence, because that's not our natural reaction necessarily if that's what's coming toward us. And I felt tremendously moved because he was talking about that the only way to do that is to have such compassion in your heart, and not just compassion but love. So he was talking about that they were actually cultivating love and compassion in their minds and hearts as they were preparing for others that were coming at them and responding with tremendous hostility and violence. And that is what guided them through that experience. So that is not exactly what we're going through, but I think that it's just so incredible. And I think that our strength comes from living our authentic truth and cultivating that loving compassion in whatever way we can, in whatever maybe small and digestible bites that we can take toward that reality. So just to encourage you to take time to fill yourselves up. We have to fill ourselves up. We absolutely have to make time and energy to do that, and also to look around us and see what the needs within our communities are and how we can best help and support each other. Because I know we've heard a lot about this marathon mindset lately, and I think it's so important and key, as John Lewis said too, about being a pilot light. You know, we're in this for the long haul. We are here. We are facing these atrocities because these are matters that are so important to us that we will not give up. And what that means, I believe, is that the success and being able to cross the finish line, so to speak, of this marathon, it's not something that happens by one person just plugging along and pulling ahead. I believe that the only way that this movement succeeds and the only way that there is a win to this marathon is when we all lift each other up and collectively hold hands and cross that finish line together. So however we can do that, however we can manage it, talking to each other, seeing where the needs are, what can we do to help each other out, and really thinking outside the box, because that's what we have to do in order to manage through tremendous difficulty. So knowing that we don't know what tomorrow will bring, let us connect with each other. Let's stay inspired and let's support each other. Listen. So I hope that you will consider setting your alarm for 9 p.m. and any other time too. If you feel inspired, it'll only help the greater cause. It'll only help us to have more mindful moments and really just rest in that positive, affirmative space. So blessings to you all this day.